It's a brand new day, and we'll be making history. Are you with me? Won't you stay?
Welcome to Elevating Lives. My name is Charles Evdos. I'm Executive Director of Rise Life Services. Today, our goal of our show is really to help educate and help individuals who have special needs, developmental disabilities, autism, whatever the category may be. We're here to help. Today, my guest is Yvette Aguiar, who's the Riverhead Town Supervisor. Yvette, welcome aboard, and thank you for being a big supporter of Rise Life Services.
Thank you for having me here on your show.
What we've been working on is our Century Garden in Northville, and we just were approved to add a 2,500 square foot additional building, which will help about 50 to 60 individuals in a day program. And I really thank Riverhead for helping out in that. The other big piece is our food pantry. The town, we have a food pantry in Riverhead and also in Hampton Bays. And we also have a truck that delivers food to individuals who can't come to Riverhead or Hampton Bays, whether it's elderly or handicapped. We deliver the food right to their house. And we are supported by Long Island Harvest and Long Island Cares. What I found over the last couple months, really the last year, the need for the hungry has gone up by 300% on the East End. And that's why we're pitching in. We count on donations to help the individuals in our community. And I appreciate all the help you've provided. In fact, for the Century Garden in Northville, the town is going to be giving us a grant, hopefully at the end of this month, to help our a day program. So tell me a little bit about that. What how is that going to help our agency, you think?
Absolutely. When I took office 2 short years ago, in January, we saw the global pandemic, and I noticed our vulnerable populations, such as our seniors and our elderly and the disabled, were in crisis. And we reached out to them, and we created as many programs as we can. And I noticed that the town didn't have a town official committee or advocacy group to champion for our disabled. And just last month, we created a town level committee, and I know you're going to be involved, and Lisa's going to be involved with the other organization that assists with the disabled. And I think it's very important that we protect and we champion and we advocate. What's going on in Albany at the current time, it's atrocious. Holding funds for the disabled instead of dispersing them, giving them to the 501Cs. And I have 2 neighbors who had disabled children, and I saw what they went through during the pandemic. They were in crisis. The whole family was in crisis, and you have our support. And due to the receiving the rescue funds from the American Rescue Act, we are allocating funds for your agency, and I would encourage that you apply. It has to go before the board, and we're going to make the presentation very soon. And it's just a start. We're with you all the way, Charles.
Thank you, Yvette. It's so important. It really is. People don't understand that. Especially with our direct care workers. There's over 500,000 direct care workers in New York State. There's probably another 500,000 staff that support the direct care workers. And there's probably, if you factor in all the numbers, there's over 2.5 million individuals that are affected or helped by the direct care workers. And the sad part is the New York State budget only gives us anywhere from $15 to $16 to pay these individuals. And Connecticut just approved an increase up to over $20 an hour, which was wonderful because it's desperately needed. And these direct care workers, basically, they get $15 to $16 an hour, but it's frustrating because they have to get certified in CPR, certified in skip training. They have to go through a whole gambit of trainings where they're working on people's lives. They're not flipping hamburgers, and they need to be paid higher, no question. And the sad part is New York State is holding $1.5 billion that was directed towards these direct care workers and the industry. And thank God you're helping, and Assemblywoman Giglio is also helping. Mm-hmm. She got 37 state assembly people and assemblymen, women too, to send a letter up to the commissioner of OPWDD to say, hey guys, release this money, it's desperately needed. So your support and many others that are supporting this cause to get these funds released is critical, no question. So I thank you for that.
Yes, and you know what's very interesting is that at that pay rate, you have to supply all the training, you go through all the costs,
Right.
and these individuals, and rightfully so, to a certain extent, feel, okay, I have all this training, let me go to the private industry and receive a lot more money. So it's, you're in a bind under these circumstances, and it's incredible. The money is sitting there, it's available. It's not like you're applying for a grant, and grants are always available, and you may get it and may not get it. The money is sitting in a bank account, receiving interest, and I'm going to urge that this money be released.
No, I thank you for your support on that. Tell me, I see things happening in Riverhead. On Main Street, there's those 2 apartment houses or complexes that have been developed or in the process of being finished up. What's happening in Riverhead? It's great to see.
Yes, Riverhead has been exploding. Under COVID in February, we sat down, and we've always had all these studies and people's opinions and architectural designs, and it's like put it aside. Let's start fresh. We're not going to take somebody else's designs and a possible beginning of a project that failed. We're going to start fresh, and we're going to move forward. And we did. In February, we sat down, and we purchased the 3 buildings opposite the Suffolk Theater. As of May, they're ours. That's been unheard of, because we never were able to purchase any of those buildings. The last owner had a hold on them, and 2 of them are coming down in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
They're coming down, and it's going to open up the riverfront. So we're now going to focus Main Street to the riverfront. So that's going to create an open space, and we have 4 plans that we're going to pick from. We're hoping to have an amphitheater for concerts, the first music museum in Long Island. We're hoping to extend the boardwalk for kayaking and people to use the riverfront. It's going to be family friendly, kid friendly, disabled friendly.
Very nice.
And that's very exciting. It's no longer plans, and we've been fortunate enough to get funding from the governor and the county. So that's moving. It's no longer maybe. It's going to be now, when does it happen? And it's going to start in 2 weeks. We have the 2 apartment buildings. One is affordable housing, and one is moderately priced, and that's going to give us a tremendous boost. And Michelangelo's restaurant is going to be a high-end restaurant.
I heard that. I read that in the paper. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
And the individual who's purchasing it is who's going to be working. He's from Italy, from Sicily, and he was on CHOP. He owns a very, very successful catering company. All the buildings on Main Street have been bought or in contract, and they're selling at a very high price, Charles, which is good. People have faith. And we also developed last year what's called a TOD, a transit-oriented development, from our most blighted area. As you know, it is the train station. And we have a great developer who came in, and with beautiful scale buildings, and site plan is in, and that's taken off. And one of the most exciting development projects that I've seen was the Island Water Park. It's been in the makings for 22 years. The park has taken a lot of different directions. And
22 years, that's amazing.
22 years. I read over 10,000 documents under COVID. And finally, we got it through the Pine Barrens and the DEC and the APA and everybody who needed approval. It's going to be on 48 acres in Calverton, next to the ball fields. It's going to have an indoor surf pool, the only one in Long Island.
Really?
Yes. It's going to have a 12-acre lake with sports activities for all levels. It's going to have a high-end restaurant, cafes, shops, beach volleyball. I call it our mini Disney, and I'm very proud of it. And that should be opening up by the end of the year. Again, no more talk.
By the end of the year, wow.
And you know what you'll find interesting, Charles? It's disabled it has disabled provisions made for the disabled, and they didn't have to do that. Some parks do not have to have the accommodations, especially if you're a private entity.
Right.
And they made it all disabled specific. So they're looking forward to seeing your the disabled that you guys
Right.
work with, and there's a tremendous amount of
I'm excited about that.
projects on it. Oh, and what's really very interesting, which was a shock to me, back in May, we received a call from the state controller's office. They want to review our records. As you know, I have a PhD in business, so.
No, I didn't know that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I spent 20 years with the New York City Police Department.
Okay.
After I retired, I started a PhD program. I completed the program, and I'm a professor with the American Military University online, and I teach soldiers all over the world. We have 144,000 individuals in the university. And 3 years ago, I decided to run for office. I thought I had all the credentials and ability, and I was very successful. So, and they did review our budget, and I was a little concerned. I knew that we worked really hard, especially with all the shortfalls that we had in Riverhead under COVID. And they came back a month later and said we handled the pandemic appropriately. We never let an employee go, and we combined some efforts, and it was a daunting task to get that budget in last year, and we got it in. It was reviewed. Everything went great with the state. And just last month, Moody's upgraded us. Our bond rating has been upgraded.
Oh, that's great news.
The only one in Suffolk County.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yes. So it is this a tremendous amount of effort that's going in. We're financially secured, and I'm hoping to lower taxes.
Oh, people would love that. That's for sure. I mean, I'm sure everybody's excited about the new ventures happening in Riverhead. The two apartment complexes, how many people are they going to be able to house in those two buildings, approximately?
Well, one is open already. I'm not.
Oh, it's open already? I didn't realize.
One is open, and it's called the Gallo Building, and the other one is possibly it's going to commence construction soon. It's waiting for its final review. After these, all the buildings that are in the works, we're done with housing there. Okay, we have other areas where we need to expand. You're not going to have buildings on top of buildings and huge buildings. And I know there was one building there where everybody had a problem. It was 4 years ago. There's a tremendous amount of apartments, but that'll blend in with everything else. And we're going to have a lot of open space there, and we'll ensure that families go. And it's a place. It's going to be the center of Riverhead, and then we have Calverton, and we have the ball fields there. We're getting them a scoreboard and lighting. They never had lighting, especially under COVID, and you would know that.
Sure.
You know, it was very important for people to be outdoors, and we don't know where we're going with COVID, but as an emergency responder, you always have to prepare. And it's good to know that children can get, their exercise and learn about teamship and not be tied onto a computer if something does happen in the future.
That's great. I mean, Calverton and those two apartments are going to definitely bring customers to Riverhead, and that's going to help the economy of Riverhead, no question. I truly believe that.
Did you hear about drag racing?
No.
No. Okay.
Tell me about it.
But since West Hampton Beach drag strip closed about 17, maybe 20 years ago, Long Islanders wanted to have a place so they can run their cars and drag race, and they've tried. And I was approached under COVID. In April, during closure, I was approached, and John Montecalvo and Pete Scalzo, who's an expert in racing, and they convinced me to give it a try. And once I told them that I was going to look into it, they go, yeah, every supervisor tells us it. Every supervisor throughout Long Island, okay, been there, done that. And worked it through the attorneys. We looked into it, and Riverhead had a racetrack over the summer. Just ended the last series, and it was great. The amount of people, the families that were together, Charles, it was incredible. The laughter, the stories that they share, the emotion. I went there at least 3 times a day, and people were so thankful. And one particular story stuck in my head. Um, I walked up to someone in a wheelchair, and I asked him how he was, and he says, "Probably don't know who I am, but I ran the ice slip drag strip." And I said, "Okay, welcome." And he says, "Today's my birthday." And I, "Okay, happy birthday." And he goes, "My son and my grandchildren took me out of my nursing home to take me here so I can see that there is a drag strip in Long Island."
Wow.
And he said to me, "I died and I went to heaven. I can die right here."
That,
That's such a story, and there's such a
Beautiful.
culture and a
Sure.
history. And I did mention it to the producer, to the promoter of the event, and he announced him, and the whole crowd sang him happy birthday.
oh,
So, and that's
great
good.
story.
The economy, what it did to the economy, I call it that drag racing gave Riverhead economy a shot. The delis were running out of food. You couldn't find a hotel room. Diners were all over. Auto shops, specialty auto shops that usually close on the weekend were open. People needed paints, special tires, and it went off very well. Very, very well.
Well, it sounds like you have things rolling. That's great to hear. Riverhead definitely needed it, and you've been doing this now, what, 3 years?
Actually, a little over a year and a half, believe it or not.
That's it? Only a year and a half? It's,
Under
wow.
the pandemic. Oh, and then we had peaceful protests in
Right.
Riverhead, which is good. They were peaceful, and then we had the tropical storm Isaias, and then we had the winter storms under COVID,
Wow,
and I'm here today.
that's great.
November 2nd is hoping to be reelected to the
That's,
second term.
and I hope you do. You sound like you're doing a great job, and I know Rise appreciates it, and we look forward to working with you the next 4 years after that. So that's great,
Yes.
and
yes.
many more, hopefully.
One term at a time. It's only a 2-year term. One term at a
All right,
time.
I got ahead of myself. All right, fine.
I don't normally sleep. See the bags under my eyes. I'm always thinking. My husband says that there's a mouse in the wheel, and I'm always at night. So, but I want to share something with you.
Sure.
Back to your efforts, and I want to thank you for what you do. And I know not everybody appreciates or understands the extent of what you do for children and for adults. I have a disabled child, and I know the challenges that I had, and to the point that I retired from the police department to make sure I take care of him, and then I went on and started my PhD program, and it was a fight. It was a fight going to Albany, getting testing, and dealing with people's opinions, and you know your child better than anyone else.
Right.
The best advocate is the parent. Nobody can advocate and understand the extent, and it was some hard times for me for a few years, and I finally was able to get him the help that he needed and the assistance, and he went to high school, and he went to a special needs school, the appropriate one. Not all of them are classified, and
Sure.
it's not a one size fits all. Okay,
Right.
you have to understand that, and a lot of people don't. And he was able to graduate from high school. He went on to college. He did need some services. He did graduate for college, and he now works for the state in computers.
That's a great story. I know. I have something similar. I have a niece who still has cerebral palsy, excuse me. And she must have been about 8 years old. Then she came, never spoke a word, and she was wheelchair bound for all her life. And she comes in Thanksgiving dinner and hits a button and goes, "Happy Thanksgiving, everybody." Well, I started crying. My stuffing was so wet.
Aw.
And I said, when I retire, this is what I have to do. And I've been doing it now for 20 years, over 20 years. And I told my wife, I said, I'm going to do this until God tells me that's enough. And you know what? The field requires passion. It requires care. And those are the individuals that come into the program and work in the program. And that's the beauty of it. And gets me going, that's for sure.
Yeah, Charles, and I think part of the problem is that there's lack of information out there. And sometimes you have possibly competing advocacy groups, and you're not getting the same message out.
Absolutely.
And I somehow noticed that, and I'm glad you're confirming it. So you need to be united.
Yep.
and get the information out there. And I know you guys. I know a few people in your program, and you guys are doing a great job.
No question. And the pandemic really affected Long Island and the country, where outpatient clinics are needed so desperately. And that's why we're going to be opening up, hopefully next week, we'll be opening up an outpatient clinic at our main headquarters. And we're in the process of purchasing a building in Huntington that we're expanding our No Walls program. We will have an outpatient clinic there. And the beauty of it's going to be a cultural center for the disabled and special needs and autistic. It'll be arts, music, dance, the whole gambit. And I believe it's going to be like the first of its kind in America. So we're hoping to set an example for the rest of the country. Hey, you know what? Individuals with disabilities have lives too, and they need quality of life and to enjoy just the same things you and I take for granted every day. And that's the beauty of it, no question.
Yeah. And you know, I just want to circle back when you talk about COVID and, you know, how it affected your program and other similar programs. You know, the pandemic, COVID-19, I often refer to it as a health war, but you had a health crisis also during a health war.
Yeah, no
which
question.
complicated things and even funding.
Yep.
So it's, you know.
I know we spent a fortune on sanitizing the houses on a regular basis. We probably spent at least $300,000-$400,000 just to sanitize. Plus, when staff came down with or the individuals came down with COVID, we had to basically keep them locked down for 2 weeks straight with the staff and the individuals in the house. That cost us, you know, overtime, being locked down in the house. I know when you couldn't go to movies, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. It affects you. And thank God I have a great staff, and they're able to take care of the individuals with that type of attention. It was great, no question.
Yeah, we had similar challenges. We had to keep our residents safe. We had to keep our employees safe. PPE was almost non-existent in the beginning. So we had to search around the internet, purchase. What became very difficult to obtain were the shields for people to work at their desks and keep town hall open. We were very, very fortunate. We were in Riverhead Town. We maintained in-council meetings. We were the first to go virtual, Zoom, and we were the first to open in all the East End towns. And one of the most significant acts that we did was we started what's called outside dining, because the restaurants were
that
challenge.
Saved a lot of restaurants. Unfortunately, many closed, but that helped.
Yeah, 3 closed, but 2 of them was because the buildings were purchased, and we have others going in now. But outside dining was really another shot to them. We got it through the state, the Supervisors Association of Suffolk County. We advocated to the health department, and they did give us the approval pretty quickly. And last week we made it permanent.
Wow.
It's now permanent.
That's great news. I hope they do that throughout the state, because that's so important. We got to get these restaurants, we got to get these businesses up and running, and they're having problems of hiring staff also, and we have to help them, no question.
And you know what's really interesting, Charles, is that you would think, we saw a decline in Tango Mall, right? We're the biggest mall in the northeast USA, and all of a sudden, as things opened up, there's been a huge demand for in-person retail purchase. I guess people want to get out.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting what this Christmas
I know the online purchases really have increased dramatically, but you're right. I've seen reports that all over the state they've gone up, and people want to get out. They were anxious to get out, and hopefully this pandemic ends eventually or pretty quickly, because I don't think America could take it anymore, or the world really.
Yeah. Hopefully we're gonna be reaching our new normal soon, and we've learned. Yeah, unfortunately, under COVID, people's living rooms became their offices, and we had to adopt, and people were scared, and especially in the beginning, we didn't know the extent of it. But I think we're heading in a good direction, and we're going to remain positive. And I want to make sure that again, that you have our town's full support.
I really appreciate you, Yvette. I appreciate you coming on the show, talking about what's important for Riverhead and what's important for Rise, and what's important for Long Island, because if Riverhead comes back stronger than ever, it helps all of Long Island. So keep up the good work.
We
And
are
thank you for
strong.
being on my show. And thank you, everybody. We're here again to help the community. Please visit our hotline at Rise Help. And there's going to be a little blurb at the end of the show talking about the hotline. So thank you again for being on our show. And Yvette, thank you for being a part of this show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.